Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there. Welcome back.
Welcome back, guys. Again, I want to thank everybody over at Patreon that's supporting us. Also, everybody that's just subscribed and checking in on a regular basis, whether it's on Patreon, Ko-Fi, YouTube, Brighteon, Bitchute, or Rumble. Thank you for being part of the family and being on this ride with us. It's a wild one.
It's a big one, yes. It's almost like one of those barf rides, you see at the carnival.
Yeah. It reminds me of my old football coach. He would say basically, buckle up, buttercup, going into the big show.
That's just charming.
Yeah, he wasn't very charming in reality. But anyway, let us start here. We have a new eruption beginning in Iceland this morning, very close to the December eruption near Grindavik. Lava flows and you can see it going on. The earth is going to change. There's going to be rapid change. And again, there has been rapid change in the past. We've touched on some of these things in videos in the past, and others like Jimmy Corsetti over at Brightside Institute has done deep dives into things like, why are these ancient maps showing northern Africa lush and tropical not too long ago? Why are these giant lakes that no longer exist in these maps? And we ended up finding on in one of those flea market places these three mini maps like the maps that we're showing you guys in videos where it shows California as an island. And again, I really think California was an island prior to 1700. I think prior to 1700, California was an island. There's a lot of evidence through various legends, and then just look to the fact that it's the most seismically active place in the world. It really is. It gets more quakes, even though many of them are small. Look at the fault lines. Again, it's just our history is not what we've been told. Now, it's been very, very quiet, but as you can see here, boom, boom, the waves are coming back. The waves are coming back. M-class flares are coming back, although these are all basically heading away from us. So what we're looking at here is a 5.1 M-class flare, R2 level radio blackout detected yesterday. Again, it shows that most of the energy is going to be going away from Earth in this ride, but for more than one reason, we should be prepared for the grid going out. And there's a reason why I've used these. Yesterday, I wasn't going to. Originally, I had something that I was going to put on the video that was more of the migrant invasion going on. But I was getting this from the guides. Why am I putting these pictures up with submarines, the Statue of Liberty sinking, New York City being inundated in the background, Putin screaming, and this other one over here is submarines off of our coast launching missiles, because I do think this is how it begins. And I do think it's very, very close. Again, will there be pole shift in our lifetime with massive inundations, complete reworkings of the planet, and we won't even recognize it? We don't get that it's going to be in our lifetime. Now, hey, I'm an old guy, I'm heading towards my 6th decade of life here. Yeah, so again, it's relative to the yugas, how long we live. And that's a whole other video and we've done that before too. So again, I encourage people to go use this little search button, because I'm always seeing things like, well, you never talked about this. Oh yes, we did. So, but part of the problem too is, like on Evolutionary, again, we did 2,500 3,000 videos over there. There's only 300 and some up over there right now, because they've been taken down, and again, a lot of things were removed. Thankfully, some of them haven't been removed that show that we are being guided by guides that are giving us a good clue as to what is unfolding. And those that have been following us regularly understand, because I think we've been pretty right on point with everything that's coming. Again, the reason I felt inclined to do this is because I do think that they've completely told us what their plans are. And again, it's to use tsunami bombs that will look natural at first, and create the conditions where you don't exactly know what that was. We were talking to one of our family members yesterday that was saying they were very concerned with La Palma. When it was showing a lot of action over in the Canary Islands, they were really worried because, again, they're right on the east coast of the United States at like 8 feet elevation. And if that goes, that could be a big problem for everybody all around the Atlantic. And then you have the Helena slump over in Hawaii that could do something fairly similar as well. But we have also shared that, again, Russia has said that they've looked into targeting the Cascadian Fault and seeing if they could trigger it through the use of some sort of underwater explosion. Underwater explosion. And it would just simply look like Cascadia went. Or what if a submarine triggered the Helena slump and triggered La Palma at, say, the same time? It would look like we had, again, more earth change disasters. And, you know, it could be a humanitarian disaster that they're going to have to send UN in. Who seems to be in charge of the UN right now? Well, again, it seems that the power's already shifted to the PCC, if you know what I mean. And, you know, Klaus always patting Xi on the back. That's why I did that. Just also for information, 99% of the world's internet traffic and 80% of international telephone lines pass through these submarine cables in the area of Yemen. Isn't that curious? And we wonder why the Red Sea in Yemen is so important. Well, multiple things. Obviously, the flow of goods, especially flow of oil, etc. Oil and gas. But absolutely, what happens in war? Well, you don't want your enemy communicating. And while there might be one control group covering, you know, the real power structure of this planet, yeah, you know, we do have these wars and these world wars that happen at regular intervals.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it does seem, to me, it seems a little bit archaic and old-fashioned, call me old-fashioned, but to have these wired cables going under the ocean, and when you could cut them so easily and cut off all communications, almost all communications. But then again, if you kind of look at what they're doing up in the sky, well, it seems like they're creating another communication grid and almost like preparing for that communication down. Just curious.
Absolutely. And so when I saw this, you know, everything else is secondary today. And this is a 4.0, 163 kilometers east of Cape Canaveral, Florida. Cape Canaveral. What happens at Cape Canaveral? Oh, all those launches are at Cape Canaveral. Isn't that the case? They are listing it at 10 kilometers depth. And, you know, 10 kilometers is something that they list as kind of a standard depth. Again, I've seen people that have listened to other YouTubers, and whenever they see 10 kilometers, they think, oh, we're getting rid of the reptilians underground. I think that is honestly, unfortunately, disinformation. But that's the way we feel and we view it. And again, we don't always use just the logical mind. In fact, you know, with Cindy, again, she feels in. She's very, very telepathic, clairvoyant. She can, you know, see things clearly. I have yet to find a person that she can't locate in the afterlife. And this is the type of abilities that, again, the alphabet soup agencies tend to employ or look to employ and control. And, you know, again, this is part of the awakening that's going on, because there's going to be a ton of people that can do this in just like another decade. if they stay free and clear of all the toxins and all those, gooey black things that they want to try to put inside of us. Absolutely. How could they possibly keep on with their power structure when you have a world full of, clairvoyant empaths? It's just not going to work. We, see right through it. And the Great Awakening is going on right now as we speak. So this is very, very dark. And when I asked Cindy to feel into this, because immediately, what do I see this as? This, in my opinion, is a test for those tsunami bombs. That's what I feel. That's my gut. That's immediately what I think of, because they will, again, inundate the coasts. And when I shared with you guys, when we moved the last time again, and headed away from the borders, so to speak, I'd mentioned some areas. Well, Destin, Florida is nice. Not by the coasts. This is what the guides kept saying. Not by the coasts. Try to stay at least 100 miles away from the coasts, or more at this point in time. When asked where are the safer places for the time period just ahead, they said towards the middle of the country. Towards the middle of the country. Which, again, towards the middle and away from the coast. 2/3 of the population of the United States lives within 100 miles of the coasts. When you look at the DEA GEL numbers, we lose about 70+% of the population in just a matter of 10 months. How could that possibly happen? I don't think they're going to get what they want. I don't think that they've controlled the narrative enough to get the goals that they want, that they've stated, going back to even books like different people have stated from the Council of Rome. There's been statements out there from them. Also, the Council of 300 book that was out decades ago gave a number. That little series of stones in Georgia that got blown up, and then it seems like that was kind of a go. It was kind of like a big significant event, telling many of the secret society members to go. This is go time. Those stones in Georgia, they're to guide certain entities. Again, those numbers are fairly consistent. But I don't think they're going to get it. It doesn't feel like they're having the success that they wanted, which is a great thing. But they still control most of the militaries of the entire planet. And if we're honest, probably just about all the significant militaries of the planet are under their control. So we still have at least the start of the war to contend with.
We do. We have a lot to contend with, and it's going to become very, very difficult then as time marches on and we continue to get sun sneezes and people continue to energetically level up, and they can see past the BS easier and easier and easier. To me, it just feels like they're going to have to do something to cause such a huge distraction to get people off of using their abilities, because there won't be anyone to hold up the circus tent. People are going to see it so clearly, and they're going to say, I'm just not going to do this. I'm going to do something different, and that's going to put, a glitch in their plans.
Yeah, I want to share with you too, and I'm not going to go into too many details, but we know two very, very powerful beings who are regulars that we talk to on a regular basis that have amazing healing abilities. But not only that, they have the abilities to drive out dark energies very, very successfully, and they are both in the same tiny little town, and that's so. That it just kind of came to me. You know what? I think Bleep and Bleep are right next to each other. They got to be really close to each other. And yes, person, A is right. They're down the street from each other. They didn't even know each other. But talk about these lights that have been placed in particular spots in order to shine their lights and protect the people around their area. This is why the guides didn't want us honestly leaving the US of A until we're on the other side of 2030 is because we're supposed to help to protect the people in whatever area we anchor ourselves. And we have choices. We could anchor ourselves in certain areas, including like the Four Corners-ish area and some of the other ones in the country that we've looked at, researched, and felt into. We do have choices in this, but at the same time, there's achieving the highest goal, and then there's achieving lesser goals, so to speak, for the higher self for each particular lifetime. And it's up to each person to, feel into that, really, really feel into that. Am I, listening to the little me or the big me? And that's something that's really hard to distinguish. And, we were talking to one family member who has property, right there on the coast. And, there's a part that's saying, got to sell this property, have another property in the mountains. Makes logical sense. I think I'm supposed to go to the mountains. But yet, my heart, I don't want to let it go because I love the beach. And I totally understand. There could be no stronger feeling than with me because, that's the way I love it too. I mean, even when I was up in the Northeast, I lived 2 blocks from the beach. I could walk to the beach at any time and see the water, and I did all the time. I used to jog by it, and I loved it. And even though it was cold water up there, it still was the water, and I have such a connection to water that for me to be inland, it is kind of, it's not ideal. But at the same time, I understand that what's coming is serious. This is nothing to take lightly, and I understand there's been a lot of Chicken Littles throughout the ages. There's been a lot of, here it comes, it's coming, and nothing happens, whether it's Y2K, and that's part of the syndrome too of always hyping things, so that when it does happen, many people will still think, it's all gonna calm down. It's going to calm down. No, it's not calming down this time. And so when you feel into this, again, you feel dark energy. And coincidentally, when this happened, we both got sick as dogs briefly. We both felt real weird, real off, and we couldn't put our finger on it. We're like, why do we both feel like crap? Let's just go to bed early. Woke up this morning, feel good, feel great. I actually feel, better than typical. I think it was whatever they were using here, or we're sensing the intentions maybe, and the potential loss for life if there was some big, huge, explosive event off the coast directly, or again, when we talk La Palma, we're talking the Canary Islands, which again are way over here, but which can affect the entirety. I mean, they've done scenarios on the inundation that would happen. So much of Florida is less than 20 feet off the, above sea level, for instance. I've been watching also very closely the Cascadian area, as well as obviously Yellowstone, though we've never gotten anything from the guides about Yellowstone going off in our lifetimes. That's why we don't focus on it so much. Maybe some other channels do. But we've never seen this as a high possibility in our lifetime. I think there's more a chance of a lot of other volcanoes going off, and I do think the Pacific Northwest is going to see volcanic activity start more than likely this year. But this is the thing that gets me right now the most. Now, there is a historical precedence for this too. As you see, this is talking about this one today, rare 4.0 earthquake recorded off Florida's east coast. And this does touch on the fact that there's no tectonic boundaries there. There's no reason for a quake to be there. Where it is, it could potentially, there could be tsunamis, that could be an issue, et cetera, et cetera. In the past, this talks about experimental blasts, because 3 times we saw 3.9s off of the Florida coast, which they ended up saying it was hull testing. So the hull is the part of the ship that touches the water. where they actually they say they were testing to see the integrity of a hull. Guys, they're fighting over bones here, a Chewy. Not really fighting too, it's all bluster. But 3 times we saw hull testing is what they said. The 3.9, each time a 3.9, not a 4.0, a 3.9 off the Florida coast, higher up, like off of Palm Coast area. And I used to live in Palm Coast for a while. I've lived in Orlando, lived down in Port Charlotte, and over in Venice and Sarasota as well. And I love Florida, absolutely love Florida. But this, the visions, especially when I was down in Florida, and even before I was in Florida, told me I couldn't stay through these times in Florida. That's what Spirit didn't have in mind for me. This right here at this point, like around the 13-minute mark, this was posted, as you see, 6 years ago. This was posted January 1st, it was early January, in 2018. And this picture right here I'm utilizing to show people leaving Florida because of some event that's happened. And what's the event? Well, ultimately the event was invasion. Invasion by China, Russia, many Latin American countries, and it's ongoing right now. As we know, the migrants are in, not all the migrants, I should say again, even if it's only 1% to 10%, there's a ton of sleeper cells in the country. And this, though, was when the actual military move happens. And I also saw not just the invasion up through Florida. Now the division itself happened way back in like 1982, I want to say 82, 83. I know I was still in high school. And so people were moving like they could, as fast as they could to get out. And meanwhile, there was also an influx of troops into the Pacific Northwest, through Alaska, through Canada, and down into the United States. Now these are troops, so it's not the migrants. And I think, again, the sleeper cells are here. They're going to be triggered, and then the troops will come. So I wanted to reiterate that. So when I see this, I think they are doing like one last test, perhaps. Maybe there'll be another test too. We've seen small ones off the Delaware coast too. But when Cindy feels this, energetically, you feel the energy related with this.
Oh gosh, I mean, definitely, this is testing. The lines to me are very clear. This is definitely not something that's natural in any way. So it feels very military. It feels very organized. It feels very like conformity. Like, it's almost like I can feel and see the people going through their whatever modality that they use to get this going, all the checking everything, double checking everything, and then saying, okay, go, and then recording.
Okay. Do these feel like they are U.S. military personnel, Russian military personnel, Chinese military personnel? Can you feel into that?
It does. It feels more like it's U.S., but that doesn't mean that they're not working with somebody else. So, to me, it could be all three. It could be more. It could be a mix, but it does feel like U.S. right now.
Yeah, because again, too, when you saw the camps that were set up for U.S. citizens, they were being guarded in the more rural areas. She saw camps and U.S. citizens in there, and then you saw Chinese, Russian, and American troops guarding these camps.
Well, yeah, and then that got me thinking a little bit, because I see what I see. And we have to look at all of the migrants coming in, and there's all kinds. So if they did take the migrants and turn them into a military, that could have been what I saw.
Interesting thoughts. Meanwhile, what else we have going on that we're going to touch on kind of briefly is we have NATO scrambling F-16 jets in Poland as Russia launched one of its biggest onslaughts of the war, the Ukrainian war. Again, Poland is key, and Poland was overrun in the Second World War very, very quickly. Likelihood is, when you look at this little Kaliningrad enclave here, this is part of Russia. Belarus is aligned with Russia strongly. Ukraine, of course, this is where the war has been going on. These Baltic republics of Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia are very, very small countries. And, they would be overrun so quickly, but yet preparations are underway massively for the conflict with, again, Russia, and not just Russia and the BRICS nations, which would roll through here and head towards, again, Germany, for those that are not familiar with the European map, towards France, Belgium, etc., and the UK, as you see over here. Now, as we know, Norway, Sweden, even Finland, becoming part of NATO, or the possibility of Finland and Sweden becoming part of NATO has been something that has been extremely triggering for Russia, because look at the border Russia has with Finland, obviously. And then all this was part of the old Soviet Union. Again, you go back far enough, like you go back to the year I was born, there was no country Ukraine. It was part of the Soviet Union. So we see that they did scramble fighter jets as Russian missiles came within 50 kilometers, again, of the border. And, not just that, multiple sources talking about this, feels like there's been a big escalation. As you see, GPS interruptions in the Baltic states and in Poland in the past few weeks. This is again something you would see. Absolutely hacking attempts and trying to take down GPS. Of course, if they cut the cables in Yemen, they could absolutely make a lot of the world totally blind, and that's something I think that really makes us all feel apprehensive. And this is again kind of what I'm trying to get across. If we're thinking that, okay, well, when I know that it's really happening, then I'll make this move. Then I'll make this decision. Then I'll go stock up. When it really happens, it might be lights out. And it might be lights out for weeks or months. And again, this is not forever, because again, they want to control us through the technology. But you have, again, the Polish Minister of Defense saying that Poland has to urgently, not just him too, I mean, there's so many sources, and the U.S. State Department proved possible foreign military aid to Poland, $1.2 billion. This is another black hole of death. Poland issues a no travel for all air traffic. A NOTAM is notice filled with aviation authority to alert aircraft pilots of potential hazards, again, whether it's drones or missiles in a certain area. It's getting so close. Meanwhile, they're laying these things down for when the tanks and the troops come. There's not much time before the preparations. And again, what do we think? My best guess is it all goes crazy in April, is really still my best guess. And that's what I've felt for over a year now. And I do think that there's a peak in the summer. I think this is, looks like this is going to be a summer that's dominated by literal war on NATO soil. That's really what I'm still feeling. This is kind of what the guides had shown us for the timeline. The visit planned for February 12th by Putin going to Turkey has been canceled. So, again, is this, how close are they to really, really triggering something? It could happen really at any moment. It really could. And seeing that explosion off the Florida coast makes me think, again, that we're much, much closer than perhaps most are comfortable with. And everybody has always got more preps to do. We certainly do. We're nowhere near where I wish we were. And yet, you do what you can do. And with us, a lot of it too is just decisions. Do we keep working on our own stuff? Or, do we keep talking to people and trying to help others prep? And immediately we go to helping others prep and making another video. Not because of the ad revenue, but because, really time is getting short for getting your preparations in order. So there was a helicopter that went down in the greater San Diego area. They did find it. They couldn't reach it at first because of the storms. Now they have confirmed that the 5 Marines that were on board have died, unfortunately. This is a PDF of ALOIS ERLMAIER, who is one of our guides, by the way. And back in 1959, he basically gave these prophecies to us. Now, 1959 is after World War II, so some might say, wait a minute, okay, you're seeing massive war in Europe, and this sounds like World War II again, sort of, but different. And no, it's not World War II, because he wrote these down years after World War II. In fact, he helped in World War II to tell personnel in high places where the Germans were going to be bombing. And he literally had people, you don't want to be in this side of town, move the personnel over to this side of town, keep them underground. And he was accurate because he could tell where they were going to be bombing. So what does he see? It's when Russia goes into the rest of Europe. So when the Polish thing and the Baltic states kick off, that happens not too long after that. He says the dragon moves on the U.S. In other words, China moves into the U.S. with their troops. And the invasion of the U.S. comes just shortly after Russia goes into the other NATO countries. So, again, this is why we follow that very, very closely. And here you have the farmer protests reaching Latvia. And, this is, again, a tiny, tiny little nation. And these places are actually exceedingly beautiful. If you've never looked at some of these places, like, again, Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia, gosh, it's so sad to think about all the death and destruction that they're constantly bringing on the planet when we could do so much good together.
Mm-hmm. I mean, look at these guys. These guys are so adorable. When it comes to pups, I don't know. There's something so sweet about them. He's so excited over that little stick. And the simple things in life keep us going. Just one simple, nice thought or one action where you can help somebody else. These things keep us going.
Yes, and sorry if Sita made somebody jump out there when she was saying, "Don't take my stick."
I know, they can't help it. They're very large and they like their chewies. And one thing that they do is they use their voices to try to push each other around, but they've never, ever fought. Never.
But again, guys, thank you guys so much for being part of the family wherever you're watching from. Of course, we invite everybody to come over to Patreon. Stay prepared. Think about all the basics, water and so much. The guides are now, giving Cindy messages, nudging her about a solar bank would be absolutely ideal. There's so much to do, and so perhaps little time to get it done, but hey, little victories.
Indeed.
Source bless. Namaste.
Namaste.